and storms. Down by the shore, pirates in the port of paradise. Hey, ruined mariners marinated, swinging one north with their heads and fingers sore. Viscera and gore in paradise. Pirates in the bay, taking what they may. Earnin gold aboard what decorates indoors. Taking home decor. Please not a word more. It's the pirates of paradise.
Hey, welcome to the thing.
I'm recording. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So yeah, like I was saying, not 2 seconds before, I've been doing real well recently, because in the capacity that I've been getting like 6 or 7 hours of sleep, and like it's too much still. Like I've just been on my healthy shit where like I'm doing enough stuff that I this is what it got me thinking about, because we've definitely talked a little bit about how I don't find labels that valuable when it comes to like things like mental health, and when it comes to in this case things like time and place. Like, it is somewhat of a good organizational structure for people who don't know how to manage their time to segment it into days, hours, weeks, months, etc. But something I realized, profound realization I had when I was tripping balls months ago, was that time is kind of relative. All that you really need is like a good section of sleep. But other than that, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. So, like I realized that like if I when I ran the other night, like I ran like walked like a 10K basically, so like 7 miles, 7 and change. But I slept less than, like, even though I worked out. Like, I slept less and felt better the next day. So I feel like it's, yeah, like, as long as you're doing shit and you get the sleep in, it doesn't really matter when you do it. I mean, it might matter as far as, like, night or something, just because there's, like, a whole rhythm or whatever that's somewhat embedded in humans, but it's not that important.
I think it's, like, the most, like, I think, well, my understanding is that, like, the consistency aspect is, like, the most important part of it, or like not the most important, but one of the more important parts. Like, it doesn't really matter when you go to sleep / wake up, as long as you keep like a vague rhythm to it.
Yeah, you have to have some kind of rhythm to it, but the rhythm doesn't really. Most people don't operate on like a daily basis, anyways. Like, a lot of people just lose track of time and are just living. Like, especially if their life is like if a year goes by quickly, it's usually not because you were doing a lot of shit.
Yeah.
It's because like you were doing some mundane shit, and the brain has a great self-defense mechanism, and so it just shuts down.
Yeah.
Like, you are blackout drunk 95% of the time when you're sober and doing shit that you don't want to be doing.
Oh yeah. Right. Oh yeah. Well, I don't know.
Not 95%, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I don't know if I agree in concept necessarily. That's not really my experience with stuff I don't like to do. Like, my experience with mundanity is that it's like it gets cut out of my memory, but when it's happening, it's the longest possible thing.
Oh, sure. When it's happening, it's the longest possible thing. But at the same time, like, I don't know where the last week went, because I've been working like 35-hour weeks or something like that. Just doing like some bullshit, basically.
Fair.
But yeah, I guess. But like yeah, I don't know. It's kind of nice just because I've been playing around a lot more with like, what are the things I can actually do? Like what's physically possible for me to do right now? Like, do I not want to like go on a run at like 11:30 at night because I genuinely don't have that energy in me, or
Mm-mm.
like would I pass out before I actually finished it, or am I just a little bitch that doesn't want to do hard things?
Yeah. Oh
And
no,
I
yeah.
find that it's the latter more often than not.
Oh yeah, no. I think most of the things that I don't do that I would like to do, I'm not doing, not because I can't, because I don't. Oh yeah, no, because they would be difficult, because they would be hard for sure.
Yeah, and I've been doing this thing recently too, where I'm like, it's literally just a concept. It's not even necessarily anything I do, but I'm like, hey, if it's sort of like a consequentialist viewpoint of like my actions. It's like, hey, if I don't, it's basically like I'm gonna either run that 7 miles again, or I'm gonna do some shit. Like I'm gonna like I wrote 2 songs last night. Like somehow I don't even write music, but I wrote 2 songs and I sent them to Kellen for workshopping because I feel like we might make a banger out of them. And oh my god, I'm having fun with it. It's just a blast.
That's good. That's good. I've been in like the opposite rut where like I don't know, I had a pretty good bargaining. I just can't figure out how to what am I trying to say? How to negotiate with myself to get myself to do like I can't for the life of me get myself to do my fucking homework.
I'll tell you the only reason why I've been. Oh, that's I guess the difference between me and you right now is that
Yeah.
everything I'm doing rewards me in some capacity. Like when I'm the closest example to useless bullshit I have in my life is like my straight job or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not a worthless value because I still get money at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like when parents tell you like school is a job, well it's like,
Yeah.
well then why do I not get paid?
Yeah. Why do I feel like I'm getting nothing out of it then?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
It
why do
feels
I feel like
suspiciously
this
like
is
my time being wasted.
exactly like it's all of like the useless corporate, or not useless, but you know what, like it feels like useless corporate education.
Yeah, like it's like I think most of school is like I feel like the vast majority of school is still holdovers from when they needed bodies in factories.
Oh, for sure. Like
Yeah,
they're like, hey,
like
we need, like it's engineered specifically so that a certain percentage of the graduates will go into like mechanic and food service jobs because we need those in our economy. And we
yeah,
don't,
I mean yeah,
like
but
people, like the human brain is so good that even operating at its worst, its capacity is so much greater than the lowest jobs in society. So it just
yeah,
needs to be engineered that some people fail to fill those jobs.
yeah. Like or like yeah. Like I because like I understand what am I trying to say? I understand that you need structure to learn things, right? And there are people who know more than I do. So if they were to impose a structure to ideally regulate the flow of information of like new information into my mind, like I get that, right? Like I understand that there's advantages and nuance to the teacher student relationship. However, like the idea that I have to show up all the like this. Okay, this sounds like what am I trying to say? This is a little like school's bullshit, right? But like this is a little whiny.
Oh,
But the idea that
100%
I
it
have to
is.
show
And
up.
you have the facts to back it up, right?
Oh
Like,
no, yeah.
the US spends more money on education than anybody else in the world and has like some of the worst education of any modern nation.
Oh yeah, no,
So,
yeah, the
like,
idea that I have to show up all the time and do everything that they say exactly how they say it is horseshit. That's not what I plan to do in my career. I only plan to take orders for like another 5 more years at maximum, and hard orders stop in 3. You know what I mean? Like I'm
yeah.
not preparing for the life I want to live.
Yeah, there's going to be like 2 years of like soft apprenticeship
Yeah, no, like I'm gonna
where
like
like
for
you
like
do things, but it's because you respect the person doing, like telling you to do it.
for like a couple years, I'm gonna like for a couple years I'll be like an entry level dude. Like I won't know anything, so of course I'll listen to people, right? But like by the time I'm 23, I should be a young professional, like who takes like they're like, hey, solve this problem, however you do it, as long as it doesn't cost us too much money, like that, like
Yeah, these are your constraints,
yeah,
basically.
they'll give me constraints. Yeah, I don't want commands. I would like constraints. I would like constraints and challenges worth rising to, as opposed to like challenges composed primarily of tedious horseshit that I can't bring myself to do because I would rather die.
I'd like to bring back a bit. I think resurrect a bit like Jesus Christ on whatever the hill. What on a Golgotha? I think. God damn, that's a great name. Definitely already exists though. All the metal bands stole like all the Judeo-Christian related like titles like a long time ago.
Okay, like all the cool locations and whatnot.
Yeah, if you open a Bible and slap your finger on a page and see a cool word, it's a metal band basically. Like it's like anything that's like a reference to like eat my body, drink my blood. Like that's been done. Like yes, it sounds cool. Yes, you can still use it, but you can't have it as a copyrighted name at this point.
Oh man, this is a really, really quick tangent, but this is just like one sentence, and we can go back to what you were gonna say. There's this poem called "Sometime During Eternity." I think it's by like Lawrence, Ferenghetti, something like that. He was a beats poet, but like it's called "Sometime During Eternity," and it's about Jesus, right? And it's like the first line is like, I don't know. They refer to him like never by name, but like as a cat from some square. So like they're like he's from like some fucking square place, like Galilee or something like that. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And he starts wailing and claiming he's hip to who made heaven and earth. And that cat who really laid it on us is his dad.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. I love this.
It's such a good poem. It's a great poem.
I feel like, yeah, if you take yourself seriously when you're talking about like almost anything a little bit, like if you don't weave some like entertainment comedic element into something, like even something that's like so fucked up, like let's see. Oh, like last night I wrote like heart on my sleeve, wear a vest. Was one of the lyrics I wrote.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking hilarious. Because I could have just said, like, I'm fucking heartless, man. I'm real dead inside. But I was like, heart on my sleeve. That's a thing people say. But, like, vests don't have sleeves. And that's what I'm wearing. But also I like the imagery of, like, just a Jersey Shore piece of shit wearing, like, a vest and nothing else and, like, some spray tan.
Oh, yeah. Like a vest,
like a nice vest, some board shorts, and, like, some flip-flops, basically.
Oh,
maybe a Cuban link chain.
I was imagining, like, Dr. Manhattan, but instead of, like, swaying orange penis, instead of swaying blue penis, and only wearing a vest.
Wait, does he have an orange penis?
No. He it's like his whole body's like bright blue. But I was imagining instead of like that high speed electron blue glow, it'd be instead of that Cherenkov radiation blue, it'd be like bronzer orange.
Oh, you're talking about like the color. Oh, okay. I see. You're talking about the color of the vest. I see. Yes. I agree. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. Frank. Not a great movie, but I really do love it.
Wait, what's... Oh, I do love the movie, Frank. I was thinking about it the other day, because I still listen to all the music from it.
Yeah, because the music, it's basically like Scott Pilgrim, where it's like not really joke songs, but like songs they wrote for a movie, or like licensed from small like indie bands.
Yeah.
And oh my god, that shit still slaps. It's really...
Oh no, it totally does. It's... Like I always think about every time I hear the credits version of "I Love You All." I remember the time I believe you said that the credits version is not like it's not even a little bit as good as the version in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's really good because
it's super good.
I feel like it definitely is a little bit more true to like how people actually write too. Because he's just like making observations. Michael Fassbender as Frank is just making like observations about the room he's in. Trying to do it in like a somewhat interesting way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I love that. And then he just makes it into a song.
Yeah. And it's,
I've been doing that a lot recently because I'm like, if a tune comes into my head and I can't place where it's from, I like make a little voice note of it, and then there's usually words associated with it, but I definitely like the like recently I've been viewing like myself more as like a golem, and I love that shit because if you're not familiar, clay golem of the Judeo yeah, I guess it's not Judeo-Christian, it's just of like the Jewish mythos.
Yeah.
It's just like an empty vessel through which life flows, and I like that a lot. And so basically, like, because whenever I do anything that I find impressive, I'm like, oh, that like barely came from me. Like if you asked me to do it again, I could, but not in the same way. Like,
Yeah. Like I could do impressive things again in the future, but could I do this same thing equally as impressively? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I get the observation that like dumb people in the past were like, oh no, like the things that people are capable of are so impressive that like, and it's not really even mostly due to them, it's mostly due to like, again, like people just black out a little bit no matter what. I think in that like human memory is so bad, like
Yeah.
you can never replicate the state of mind. You're never in the same state of mind twice. You're just in it because you have the input of like the past. You can be in like a similar state, but that's the closest you can get no matter what.
Yeah, anytime I do anything impressive, like I think of myself more as like instead of like, I'm the fucking best, I think of myself as just like a very good like synthesizer. You know what I mean? Like I've managed to like what am I trying to say? To pull a bunch of like disparate like concepts and like what am I trying to say? Ideas together into something fantastic. Like, but that's what am I trying to say? Yeah. Like I'm not a good thing generator. I'm like a powerful observer and a good like remixer of things that already exist.
Oh, you're like a good generator though, like as a generator, like in like the electromechanical sense, like fill you up with some gas, rev you up, and then like just let it run and see what happens. You have an output, and that output, it just kind of depends on how everything on the inside's working. But yeah, I really like that. Like you're never in the same state of mind twice. Like every second is like a new state of mind. You're a new person because you're already integrating like your past.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's not, you can definitely integrate it harder if you actually think about it. But no matter what, you're changing yourself just by living.
I was thinking about that like last Friday, I believe. I was leaving my friend's house and I was thinking about like what did I do 7 minutes ago, or like you know what I mean, like from the time I was at his house to the time I was not at his house. I was like, oh man, the version of me that was at his house doesn't exist anymore at all. Like.
No, not at all.
Like I was like, I don't even really like I can guess what it was like to be that dude because he's me, and it was like he was mostly the same as I am, but he's definitely not the same dude, or I'm not the same dude as he was.
Yeah, I totally get when people are like, don't be not reductionist, but what's the like postmodernist or whatever. But postmodernism is so fun to fuck around with. Like, I'd say most art kind of comes from postmodernism in some capacity.
I mean, maybe in the sense that
like you're like trying to like break down the world in a like not necessarily come up with an ultimate solution, but just like break down and analyze the different aspects of what like create like meaning and stuff like that. Like
I mean, I vibe with like that aspect of postmodernism, but I feel like the bottom of postmodernism kind of like what am I trying to say? It presumes that like I like my understanding is that it, like at the bottom that it kind of like presumes like the not like the equal value, but like the that like no given like frame of reference is more valuable than any other, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that idea, but I do very much like the idea of what am I trying to say, of like breaking down the aspects of my perception and then like recombining them to something that could be like more useful or more novel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's very much like your hand tattoo, but like not necessarily just folding the same piece of metal, but like taking the metal, breaking it down, and folding it again.
Yeah, something,
kind of.
Something.
something like
yeah.
that. Like I don't know what a good analog for that would be, but it's oh boy, it's fun. It's fun.
Oh no, truly.
But oh my god, oh yeah, so I know that so Joe Rogan talks for forever, so he has the right to say some stupid bullshit. But I
Yeah,
think,
that is true. He does spend a lot of his time talking.
and I bet that if you questioned him on most of it or like held him accountable for anything he said, he'd like
He'd be like, I don't
retro.
fucking know.
He's like, I don't know, man. I'm just talking. I'm just a dumb guy.
You see how many podcasts we record? Like,
It's like we have like 8,000 podcasts, man, and they're all like 9 hours long because I don't do anything. But he said something recently. He was like, "How many real good comics are there? Like 200?" He's like, "It's the hardest job. It's like the hard. It's like."
well, no.
I was like, "No, in no capacity is it the hardest job. It might be the easiest job on the planet."
It's that like for what am I trying to say? Because hear me out. I'm not trying to say that I would be a good comedian if I started performing today, but I could be a good comedian in one. I could be like a passable headliner or not a headliner. Like I could open for people in like a year for sure. No offense.
Oh,
like
for
Joe
sure.
Rogan.
I could do it. I could have like a tight hour together in like a month. Like
hold on. I don't know if I could have I think I could have like a streamlined, like perfect, like arable, like 15 minutes in a month. I think I could definitely have an hour within 6 if I were like trying.
I mean, okay, so there are definitely like Netflix, right? Like Netflix has so many specials, and most of them are not dog shit, but like kind of subpar, not outstanding,
not funny to me.
Yeah, which is fine because that's how most comics are. Like most comics are not that great, but. Mm-hmm. He was like, how many comics are there in the world? Like 200 that we respect? Like, like people that like and do podcasts and like that are in his awareness. But I was like, really, that seems more like a function of who you're actually aware of, because I guarantee that he would be like he's a bitch of enough to be like, a comedian's the hardest job, that if some guy was like, oh yeah, I'm a comic, and he only did gigs like in a certain area because that was all the capability he had, but he ran like ultra marathons. Even if his comedy was like meh, Joe would be like, you're a great comic, man.
Yeah, no, what was I gonna say? I feel like that's just like a Pareto distribution thing, or it's a Price's Law thing more accurately. Like, even if he's like accurate about the number of comics that are like actually like good, like I think that's just a matter of the fact that it's only only a square root of the number of total comics are going to be producing like half of the good comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also I feel like he should definitely take the approach. He does himself a great disservice by not listening to the podcasts himself. Yeah, I know he does it sometimes, like when he wants to learn the information that he heard. Like if he's talking to like a straight up scientist and he wants to like use some of the material in his act or something, but he does himself a great disservice by not listening back to the podcasts or editing them, because like he doesn't understand the Joe Roganisms that he listens to.
The Joe Roganisms.
Like, Joe, you ever smoke DMT, Rogan? And he doesn't seem aware. Like he seems to have
Joe, a buddy of mine,
self-awareness. Yeah. Joe, when I was a little kid, this one dude offered. He used to come, like this one jogger used to try and fuck me when I was fishing.
Joe, don't be a bitch, Rogan.
Yeah, conquer your inner bitch, I believe it is. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that is that. I believe that's on the shirt. Yes.
Yeah. But he needs to conquer his inner bitch and stop repeating himself a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, he does have almost like, I think like he's at like,
he doesn't really explore ideas that much, and I think the hardest part of his podcast is, for me, like,
I mean,
just I'm trying to think of what I was going to say about it. Basically, the hardest part of the podcast for me Actually, no. Just if you have anything to say, just go with it
Oh,
because I'm trying to think.
yeah.
But
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like he kind of like, yeah, I don't know if Joe Rogan like explores ideas on his part a whole bunch, but I feel like he kind of counteracts it with like the sheer like volume and variety of guests that he has. In that, like Joe Rogan's probably like, I mean, I imagine he does like a lot of evolution from episode 1 to episode like 200, but he's got like I think it's like 1290 something episodes nowadays. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's kind of balancing it out. Like, but it's definitely what am I trying to say? It's definitely got like a rigid format on his part, I would say.
yeah. I agree. There's a rigid format, but there's definitely. I mean, again, it's just a matter of volume, and so I don't hold it against him too much because I still listen to every single episode unless I can't. Like, I couldn't listen to the full Adam Conover episode because I was like, oh my god, this is too much. Like,
Well, no, I didn't. I also don't love Adam Conover.
I I don't love him either, but I didn't feel like either of them were like operating in good faith in that interview.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Joe was just being like some real dumb piece of shit meathead that's like, "Oh no, humans operate on an alpha level," and Adam was like, "No, like we're just straight up. That's not the social, like the organizational structure of humans. Like
Yeah, like
humans." Humans don't operate on an alpha beta thing because in that capacity, like in nature, if you're talking about like strict alpha beta, I mean, again, to go back to a little bit of postmodernism, just throw a little dash of that in there. Um, uh, it doesn't really help to label the organizational structure alpha beta because there's not one method that it's just the most common method. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be like whatever you call it, variations from the standard, like standard deviation, deviations from the standard. John
from the
invented a
mean or
new
whatever.
term.
Yeah.
Standard deviation is the correct term, but there's always going to be a standard deviation and probably an outlier. You shouldn't disregard the outliers because they exist, but if you're trying to use it as a predictive model, I understand the efficacy of not incorporating that.
Yeah, I feel like that was when they were talking about the alpha versus beta thing like that. Like, because I feel like
Joe was just like, no, it does exist, and you're a beta. Which I agree with if it was true.
No, like I feel like it was like that. Like I think Joe Rogan, I think he was arguing like to try and argue from both of their perspectives. I think Rogan was arguing that like they're like less like a what am I trying to say, like a physical like very socially instantiated alpha beta system, and that there's like that there are winners and losers in like to the extent that the male hierarchy is real. There are people who are like in the upper quartile and then everyone else to a certain extent. But like, and I understand that argument, you know what I mean? But also,
there are people that have their shit together and do stuff, and then there are people that don't.
Exactly. And I think Joe Rogan's saying that, like, if you have your shit together and you do stuff, then you're objectively better than someone who doesn't, which I kind of agree with, right? And I feel like Adam Conover was saying, like, hey, getting your shit together and doing stuff is kind of subjective, so it's not really like a hard actual thing. And I feel like like Joe Rogan was like, alphas and betas are real and you're a beta.
Yeah, he's like, you can't use scientific language to like, because it's basically pseudoscience at that point. Like,
well, I don't know if it's even pseudoscience, but I don't know if it's like a hard enough concept to apply a hard scientific label to.
Yeah, in the capacity that Joe, I mean, he knows that he's kind of dumb, right? But like,
or not, like, I don't know if he's dumb. He's definitely dumb. Not a scientist.
Oh, but also for sure, he's not one of the greatest comics.
He's one of my favorites for sure. But that might just be me, you know what I mean?
He has one of my favorite podcasts, but he's one of my least favorite not my least favorite comics, but like he's real mediocre with his podcasts. Or not podcasts, sorry. Stand up.
Really? Interesting. I think he's maybe like he's in my top 15 favorite stand-ups.
I think probably my number one is like a Tom Segura or something. Tom Segura. He fucking kills it every time. Because I feel like it's just a matter of, again, like what, like. Oh, that's the thing I was gonna say. He he workshops so much of his material on the podcast, and you can always tell when he's doing it because he'll like look at Jamie and look at the guest and go into this certain cadence and rhythm like he's doing a bit, and then he'll just keep repeating it, and the guest will be like trying to talk about something else. It'll be like, yeah, but isn't it so weird? And it's like, not really, Joe, not really.
I don't know. I don't know. I like those bits. I do. I always think it's really funny when he looks at Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I don't know. I really like because I'm thinking about like at least like specials that are on Netflix, and I haven't seen like an exhaustive number of Netflix specials, right? But I don't know. I think Joe Rogan's like specials on Netflix or some of them like they're within like my like top like 10 favorite specials, you know what I mean? Or at least due to specials on Netflix, I suppose. Like Tom Segura is definitely up there. And
I just feel like the subject matter is kind of tired, and I don't feel like he approaches something. It might just be because I've listened to him so much that it's kind of like when he's on stage, I don't view it as that much different than the actual podcast.
Oh, okay.
That might be it. And so like, and the podcast, I don't really laugh like hard at, but I listen. It's entertainment no matter what. Like all of his output is entertainment, entertainment and TRT supplements. But yeah, but
who did he just? Oh,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like speaking of, we were talking about well, difficult jobs, I suppose, in the sense that like stand-up comedy is not the most difficult job. And he just had someone on. I think her name was like. It was like Anna Jacobson or something like that.
Oh, that was the person that was talking about like the CIA and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but I was listening to that podcast.
I haven't listened to it yet. I'm excited.
Oh no, it's like I haven't listened to all of it, but I listened to like a lot of like 20-minute clips of it, and it's good from what I've heard. And I was just thinking about I was thinking really hard yesterday about becoming a Green Beret.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mostly because oh yeah.
I've definitely considered attempting special forces because I feel like I'm the type of crazy that it might work. Yeah. But if they ever try, like, I don't know if I'd necessarily do that well in like a model where somebody's like that's really top down and there's a lot of people above me. But I definitely think that like I would be motivated enough to do super well in like a high stress situation because I'm a little bit of a sociopath. That's not a bad thing. It's just my biology.
Yeah, mostly I just want the training. Like I want like because one of my goals in life is like not to become like I guess my long-term goal is to become the greatest dude of all time, but that's probably not going to happen. But at least in the time in which I'm alive, like based
top
on
of the Pareto distribution, basically.
Kind of. I would like to be in like the upper quartile of dudes. Like I don't want to be like I would like if there's like a pantheon of human achievement, I would like to stand on it. You know what I mean? Like, and so like in that, like it would be very what am I trying to say? Like one of my goals is to become like the soft, like one of the more dangerous people on the planet. And I don't feel like I can do that without having like the training of like a tier 1 operator, like someone who kills people with knives.
Let's talk about this. So my cousin just got her black belt in Taekwondo, and I feel like I could kick her ass any day of the week, anytime.
Do you think? Well, hold on. Do you think that's because how much? Well,
because I don't think she's ever competed. Is the thing. I don't think she competed to get her belt. She might have. She might have done some sparring, but I don't like. Also, doesn't really exercise.
But she doesn't like go to tournaments.
No, she isn't like a hard competitive athlete. It's not like she went to nationals and like placed or anything.
Oh no, that's fucked up. I think
so,
and
I feel like you can't really have a black belt. Like, and I was talking to my mom about this because I was like, what does that mean though? Like that she has a black belt. My mom's like, that she can teach it. Isn't it impressive that she's a woman and she can fight? Yas, girl, or something like that. And I was like, well, yes, but she hasn't fought anyone. And also she has a bunch of fucked up things like she has to take like ADHD medication and stuff. And yes, like but also she hasn't done much. Like,
yeah, no, like my thing with because like I'm a
I don't
first
even
degree
mean
black
like
belt
in
in
the realm
Taekwondo.
of fighting. I just mean like she
Oh
hasn't
yeah,
done much in general. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think if she has the capacity to do like if she has a pretty like like a high level of fluid intelligence, she hasn't applied it to much, and so I don't think she can incorporate or like anticipate the way people will react in most situations.
mm-hmm.
Like I think she might
Like
have the raw base like if you tested her on any single skill, she could do it, but
mhm.
once you start stringing those skills together, I don't know how good she'd be.
I think like here's the way I think about it at least like I haven't been what am I trying to say? I'm not like a dude who fights. Well like I've competed in like not like my fair share of tournaments, but I've competed in tournaments and I think I placed at like regionals or something like that. I'm not like that great, but like I quantify having a black belt in the martial art as having like as being like an expert beginner. You know what I mean? Like I could help teach a class in Taekwondo for sure, and I could like probably hold my own in a physical altercation, but like having a black belt in like a martial art, specifically Taekwondo, because in order to do anything effective in Taekwondo, one of your legs is off of the ground. Like yeah, a first degree black belt in Taekwondo does not equate to fantastic fighting ability at all.
Especially
Or
because
not at all, definitely.
yeah,
Not
for
like
sure.
over.
For
Not
sure,
like
you're
over.
better than like somebody who's never fought before. But if somebody's
Mhm.
never fought before, but they still exercise all the time and are like
Yeah,
generally limber and fit and have like good enough cardio, like better
yeah.
than
It's like
standard
yeah, yeah,
deviation cardio,
yeah, yeah.
or like standard deviation, but like on the higher end cardio.
Yeah,
Um,
they're like one standard deviation above the mean in their cardio abilities.
yeah, and like maybe like a couple standard deviations higher in like their agility. I feel like
Yeah, no, I
it's
think
not
it's
even really
oh
a
yeah.
question. Like if they're stronger than you, faster than you, like you're only just because you know the language doesn't mean you can write a book, basically.
Yeah. Like technique is super duper useful, but I feel like what am I trying to say? I feel like being a good fighter is only like maybe like 12. It's like I would say it's only like 12% maybe like application of technique. Like I feel like if like because generally I feel like you could be a good fighter if you're an athlete of any kind because you know how to use your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Um,
if you're like a really good tennis player, and like and you also have to be like in good shape, like maybe they could take your cousin. You know what I mean?
oh, this is something I was thinking a lot about because I don't think I need that many calories to actually sustain myself, but I have really good genetics. Like
How do you mean?
as far as like I have a like I can see my abs stick out farther than my chest. Like as far as like my actual like the muscle insertions, they're fucking
Yeah.
like they're these thick fucking abs on my body. I have not worked out in like 9 months, and I've been like smoking cigarettes effectively for like a year, and I bet that I could still kick most people's asses. Not most people, but yeah, actually, yeah, like most as in more than 50%.
Like you're
Uh,
like you like I like you think you're like the best like you like let's think about it like this. Do you think you're like the best fighter in five? Like let's say a random segment or what am I trying to say? A random segment of like the population of state colleges selected. They line them up by fives. Do you think you could beat five people in a line?
um, I
Like
think
maybe
that
not in the
maybe not
one
back
after
to
the other
back
time.
or like
Yeah,
but
but do you understand what I'm
I
saying? Like
think
as far as
that
like fighting
as
ability
far
goes,
as as far as people like my age and I
in your
definitely
weight
have
class.
not even weight class. I feel like, but like people my age, I have
Mhm.
more muscular development than a lot of them, and I've done nothing to gain it. Basically, like I did powerlifting for like 6 months last year, and then I guess for like 5 years I just went on like retarded walks. Like I would just walk like I just walk like 25 miles in the middle of the night all over town with my cousin, bullshitting because I'm a crazy motherfucker and I don't want to sleep ever. I need to earn my sleep.
Yeah, no. I feel like that too. Like we're like about earning your sleep. Like I can't sleep unless I feel like I've done something. And like if I try to sleep without having accomplished something, I'm like, like it's like what am I trying to say? Like,
Then
yeah.
you might even sleep longer just because you're like I'm a piece of shit. And
Yeah,
then
like
there's like
I
a lot of
yeah.
lot of
Which is
waking up the next day.
which is my least favorite thing. I hate it. I hate that, because I do it all the time because I'm like, I'm a piece of shit. What am I gonna do today?
Oh yeah,
nothing,
sleep is
and then I'll-
sleep. You know, like the saying, like sleep is the cousin of death. It 100% is, but like it's also just like it is in and of itself like its own drug. Like all you're doing, I mean, in the capacity that like your brain is flooding your body with like the shut down the body chemicals. It's a drug in that sense, but also it's a drug in that like it's like you don't need heroin to nod off. Like, and there's almost nothing more satisfying than just wallowing in the moment satisfying than just wallowing in like your misery and like putting yourself back to sleep. Like you feel like a real piece of shit for it, but it's so comforting. Like wrapping yourself in like a warm blanket when it's cold outside and just never leaving the comfort of your bed. Oh my God.
I've been trying to get out of it though. Like I can't, like I've been trying to think of a way to figure out how to wake up consistently at 7 a.m. or like awake by 7, moving by 8. When I say moving, I mean I've like left my apartment, you know what I mean? And I outside of like creating an alarm clock that starts a small fire I have to put out, like you know, I for the life of me cannot figure out how to like, even when it's like my money is at stake, like I'm like, I have to go to my job. I'm like, I can walk to my job in 6 minutes, which I can really only do if I'm already awake and have eaten. Like, well, I can like, if I'm feeling good, I can book it to my job in like 5 minutes, like 40 seconds or something like that. But I can't.
I also, just a tangent, but you know, that's all this podcast is. This is a geometry podcast, just a tangent. Clearly not an English language podcast, but just a tangent. Literally, like, fuck, I forget what I was even gonna say. Oh, I definitely have some kind of like, not OCD. What's the other one? ADHD. Like, I need to be having like some kind of fidget spinnery device in my hand. But fuck a fidget spinner. It's like either a vape or a drink, and that's usually what I'm doing. So I'm either like the water champ, or I'm like pounding a coffee, or I'm like vaping. Like I need some sort of external stimulation that I need to just shove in my gut.
Oh yeah, no, I need a lot of what am I trying to say, to maintain the illusion of stability for the public. I definitely need to, like, not necessarily like a physical fidget object, but I need to be thinking about something. Like when I'm bored, I'm a danger.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like even if I'm just thinking about something, like if I'm doing a mundane task, like I'm washing dishes at a restaurant or something, literally like I am just, and I wouldn't change it even if I could, because it's a wonderful motivating thing, is just being angry about something, or like like yesterday. Oh, let's get into it. I am pissed that we don't have like an like a transcontinental high speed rail system, because Japan has it, China has it, like most of Europe has it. And we used to have like a good train system, but then I was watching a video yesterday from I think it was the BBC. It might have been somebody else though, which was weird because it was about no, the BBC thing was about accents, I think, and like linguistics. But also, I guess if you don't listen to like any podcast with information, like if you don't hard listen to infotainment, like what are you doing? A little bit.
True. Yeah, no, a little bit.
Yeah, like there's so much knowledge out there, and it's so easy to get a real layman's sense of anything.
Yeah, like if you're a real big dumb dummy, you have no excuse. If you're a real big dumb dummy and you have an internet connection, even if you have to walk to it, you have no excuse.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think anybody even really has to walk to it. Like,
I mean, like hypothetically, if you like didn't have Wi-Fi at home, didn't pay for like data on your phone, but if you have a library card, use the internet, go somewhere, let's do a podcast.
Oh, you don't even have to have a library card because libraries are free. Like,
oh yeah, just go somewhere.
be there between like 10 and 2 or whenever libraries are. I think they usually close at like 5ish, right? It's 5 or 6.
Like whenever libraries are bumping, go to the library and just learn all you can.
You don't even need to open up a book. You can just open up a browser and listen to a podcast for several hours.
About really? Like you can find long form content about literally anything. Like literally anything.
You can find just basically like maybe like a third degree from actual knowledge, no matter what. Like somebody talking to somebody who knows something about something.
Yeah, there's so many lectures.
They might not even be talking about the thing that the one person is knowledgeable about, but like by the person who being knowledgeable, you intake some level of information.
Yeah. Like there's so many
people
like
who don't know stuff about like very fundamental things about nutrition piss me off. Like
because I feel like you kind of have to be like, especially like if you listen to Joe Rogan, you don't know anything about nutrition at all. Like you have to be not listening.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you got to skip parts.
Yeah, like if you don't know that you only need like about a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight to sustain like you basically like you only need to intake 1 gram of protein for every kilogram of body weight you have to sustain the muscle mass you have, then or I think it might even be like to grow the amount of like to sustain / grow the amount of muscle you have, then it's really like, oh, that's the other thing too. Like it's so hard for me to lose weight, which is like a hard thing. Like if I'm just eating some bullshit, but if I watch my diet at all, like it doesn't matter because I would be a great anorexic person because it would literally take my body like a year to eat itself away. Like,
oh yeah, no, like I think like I struggle to lose weight on purpose. Or well, no, like not even exactly. It's just like I can lose. Like I've lost. Like I think once I lost like 15 pounds in like 10 days by accident.
Yeah. Like I just keep my like I just switch it up on my digestive system, but not even on purpose. I'm just like, oh, I woke up at 9 a.m. and then didn't go to bed till 2 a.m. and ran like 7 miles and worked and did all this other shit today. Like,
okay, no. Like sometimes it's just like, well, I was too busy to eat today, and
yep. That's what I usually try and eat like one big meal and then like maybe have like a few smaller snacks.
Yeah. Like I feel like minimizing the number of large meals and like maximizing the number of positive snacking you could do is like, at least for me, because like if I have time, I'll eat a big breakfast, and if I have time, I'll cook like a large dinner. But I can like most of the time I get at least one of those. Like, and then like it's all cheese sticks and cashews.
Yeah, I just eat like I mean, I don't eat a lot of food in general, but like I eat enough. I eat plenty because I've basically like I hit a wall with my weight. No matter what I eat, I don't gain or really lose weight. Like I stay like in like the 180 to 185 range no matter what I do. I if I get up to 200, it's because my legs are getting fat. Because that's where I get fat first. It's like my hips, my love handles, as it were, and then like the back of my thigh. But that honestly. Oh, that's something else I should get into. So when I was walking the other night, I walked past this. I forget what it's called when they like look at your feet, and it was a foot. It wasn't even a foot doctor, but like a foot physical therapist that like studies the way you walk. What are they called?
Like a podiatrist?
I think that's it. I was thinking pediatrician, but I was like, I know that's a kid.
Those are children doctors. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that, but I knew it was something like that. But yeah, podiatrist is the right one. Which is like a soft doctor, but like I mean, I'm sure that they have more knowledge and more value once you're actually dealing with like some
like a foot
actual
problem.
Bad shit. But also Pareto distribution 100% still applies to doctors. Like most doctors aren't that knowledgeable or that good about most things.
Oh yeah.
Like they might, because like most doctors' appointments are like people wonder why most people don't go to the doctor on like a regular basis, or like unless something's wrong, because doctors really don't do a lot for preventative healthcare, like more than like you can do for yourself. Because they'll just be like, eat better, walk better.
Sleep,
But like I feel like
more.
if you actually ask the doctor, like, hey man, what do you mean by eat better? Because clearly, like,
they would have to send you to a different specialist or something like that.
He'd be like, oh, you have to talk to a nutritionist about it. It's like, but when you say, it's like, come up with a game plan.
What do you mean when you say eat better? Like, what do you,
exactly.
Like, if you don't know how I could eat better, what the fuck do you mean when you say for me to eat better?
It's like, hey, if all you're doing is observing, like just giving me the raw data of like my health, thanks.
Yeah.
But like you're not that valuable. You're worth about $5. I'm basically renting somebody who can take my blood pressure, and there's already a machine that does that job.
Yeah, like you're like a family member who says, you're looking sketty. Like that's all.
You're like my cousin that told me I had tits one time. It's like, well, thanks. I guess I'll fix that then.
Yeah.
But doctors also just get inordinately angry when you're like, oh, like when they don't I think they get angry, but they take out their anger on rather than being angry at the system. When you're like, oh, I didn't want to come here because I don't have that much money.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only really afford to see you when it's a problem and I need to get it fixed.
Yeah, like when it's a serious problem, I can go to the doctor.
Yeah, like
That's the only time it's cost effective.
I knew there was a strong possibility that I had chlamydia for I had it for about 6 months before somebody, like, I got a text from a person about it, basically. But then I knew, I was like, oh, I guess like it's asymptomatic. It's been asymptomatic for 6 months. Clearly, like I did my WebMD. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And not like, I was like, worst case scenario, it's asymptomatic for like another 3 months, and then I get it fixed. Because like the dose that they give you of like antibiotics is basically the only time it changes is like if you hear about it within like the first week of exposure, but like after that, it's all the heavy dose of antibiotics.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter because that's all you need no matter what, and then you still just need a follow-up no matter what. So the procedure's the same. And like literally the worst it can get for dudes who have like chlamydia specifically is that, I mean, if it's asymptomatic, the worst case scenario is that you're sterile at the end. And it's like, well, that's cool. I wanted to get a vasectomy anyways. Like, like I'm really not that bummed about it. But
it would
apparently,
be super funny for someone to react like that.
If it's not asymptomatic, you know, you can get that drippy dick. I think that's gonorrhea, but I think you can get like the reason I actually went to a doctor is because like I had a doctor's appointment scheduled like a month from when I actually went, but like I had my regular checkup where I was going to be like, I need to get tested and probably treated for this. But also with that, antibiotics make no sense to have as a prescription drug because it's not like you can get fucked up off of them. Like the worst thing that you can do on antibiotics is you take them and you throw up, like because you took them on an empty stomach or something.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like
they fuck up your insides and they make bacteria stronger, but they don't like that's not really something that should be on you. Like,
oh yeah, well I was gonna say like you could mess up, like, isn't there like a way you can like fuck up your microbiome, and that's like a real situation.
Oh yeah, it is, but you need if you hard need antibiotics, and you know, like in the case of chlamydia or something, where it's like it costs less, like any detriment to my health costs me less to fix than like basically going to a doctor, paying for my appointment, paying for them to paying for the prescription, paying for the test. Like my doctor, I don't know why he had me tested, like had me run an STD test, because he was like he gave me the prescription before I did the test. I was like, then why are you making me spend money on it if you're just gonna give me the thing anyways? Like, why am I doing any of this if all I could do is prescribe for myself what you did, what you went through like probably 8 years of schooling for to do? Like,
Well, like, yeah, if you like already know what you have.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
most of the time, I feel like you're gonna not like
I mean,
with most minor things, right? Where it's like, hey, it's probably this. If it's not, I'll come back, and then it's your problem. But
yeah, I mean, yeah.
he
I mean,
also
like,
he
well, like
also
some
like,
minor
was
things.
trying
Yeah.
to rush it too, because oh, so the reason I went to a doctor is because one of my testicles swelled all the way up, and it looked like a fucking little water balloon. And this is way too much information for this kind of thing, but it doesn't matter at all. Looked like a looked like a
like a Roma tomato.
amputated foot. It did. But I was like, this might be cancer, but it's probably this. But yeah, I guess so yeah, I have a follow up just to make sure again that it's not cancer or whatever. It's not though. It's not. It's just not. Like I think they said at worst case scenario, it's like a chlamydia polyp that developed, which is awful. But like again, it's really no big deal because all they have to do to treat it is like knock me out, jab it with a needle, and then give me more antibiotics. Because as soon as the polyp is open, like all of the bacteria inside just will be exposed to the antibiotics and die. Like it's not a problem. But also, I guess this is something else I wanted to talk about. We can't really get into too much in depth on this podcast, but I feel like we've already covered a broad. This is already a good one. We're definitely getting better at getting a little bit more concise. Although I do love a good argue too, and we need to get a good argue hour in later.
Oh, definitely.
But speaking of tests, Quara'e has one at like 1 or something, so we gotta end it early today. Yeah. But shit. Oh, so I guess to tie it back to like the Adam Conover discussion, and I don't know, they might have covered this on the podcast, but when people say like humans are a whatever species, like in terms of sex, like humans are historically a monogamous / polygamous whatever. Yeah, they're both because people have done both throughout time. So like there are elements of both in like both elements of like humans have been sexually active enough that there's like a like basically like the size of the human penis in like in what's in not reference but in comparison to the size of the human body, I think is like the largest of any not mammal but it's the word I'm looking for, like sapien.
Primate?
Yeah. Is that the same thing? Primate, sapien? It might be.
I don't know. I think let's look it up. I'll look it up. But keep going.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically what that means is that humans have I think basically like there's something to the idea that I've heard people way more educated on the topic tell me about it, but I guess at this point I'm educated, just not educated enough to tell other people about it in a concise way. But basically, due to like the relative size of human reproductive organs compared to the like actual size of the body, it basically denotes that humans have sex with multiple people and they don't really mate for life, at least historically. And I guess on an evolutionary timescale, that's been the case for long enough that it's impacted human biology, which is hard to do. Like it's actually altered human biology.
Oh, well, my understanding is that sexual selection has played like a very large part in like how rapidly humans have distinguished ourselves from like other higher primates, I suppose.
Yeah. Like a high number of sexual partners resulted in this like a change in the physiology of humans, which takes a while to do, which means it was consistent for a while. But this is something I was thinking about because I'm pretty sure, not pretty sure, but I'm somewhat certain that I have a strong inkling, I should say, that
Mm-mm.
if there's any like biological basis for monogamy, it's probably as a result, like it's probably as a function of STDs. So it's probably in response to that stimulus
Well, I
because
don't.
because if you're talking about like chlamydia specifically, there was no treatment for it before like maybe 100 years ago. I don't know when antibiotics were developed. I think penicillin was like 100 years ago, maybe like 1850 or something, right? So
Um,
that means that from whenever like chlamydia burst onto the scene to whenever what do you call it? Whenever
oh,
shit,
it was discovered in 1928.
1928, yeah, so about 100 years. So
Well,
from
yeah, it wasn't used to treat infections until 42.
yeah, okay, even better. So for less than 100 years, we have removed part of the selection for like an STD. But in the capacity that humans, like when most people have chlamydia and gonorrhea, it's asymptomatic. But but like I said earlier, if you leave it untreated for long enough, it makes you sterile, which means that from whenever chlamydia was first introduced to the human population, even though we probably developed the asymptomatic bit, like we were probably, I bet that if you gave it to like a Native American or something, like that had no exposure, or like one of those people on Sentinel Island, they would die probably, or like
Maybe,
have
yeah.
it, or at least it wouldn't be asymptomatic. Like they'd probably have the worst version of that if they because of the lack of exposure.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so probably the asymptomatic means that it's been involved in human like sexual practice for long enough that it has basically imposed like a selection bias on human reproduction. So I think that so yeah, so if it makes you sterile, then at that point it's I guess it's again not really about number of sexual partners, but it is in the capacity that if nobody has a sexual partner that has chlamydia or whatever, um, or it might the sterile bit might be as like an evolutionary response to the disease because if people who have it can't have kids, then that means that nobody in the future would have it. Like ideally, it would knock out the capacity of anybody. Like if the body was selected for it well enough, anybody who got an STD wouldn't be able to have kids, and therefore in the future there would be no STDs because that STD would die off immediately.
Well, there might be like new ST. Like, yeah, I understand
There
what you're
would be
saying.
no
Like that.
STDs, but they'd have to develop again like on a completely new spectrum, or like
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose.
change from like because
Wait,
sexually
so
transmitted diseases are hard to transmit. Like they aren't airborne pathogens or anything.
that no, that's true. They are hard to transmit, but like, what's your what point are we making here?
I guess the point I'm making is like, oh, basically, yeah. So to tie it back again to that Adam discussion or whatever, when people tell like humans are monogamous or humans are polygamous, they're both, and you can see both like in the historical record and as an impact on human biology. And you can see
Well,
selection biases for both.
yeah, I mean, well, but like I think one's clearly more advantageous. Like one, like within social constructs, and two over long periods of time. I think there's data to suggest that polygamous societies are like more violent on the whole, and
um,
also I
I've
think
heard the
monogamy is
contrary
the
though.
only.
I've heard the actually heard the exact
Oh,
opposite. So I don't know.
I'll check. I'll check. But and also monogamy is like I would argue
It's
far more
pretty
practical
new.
for like for trial for like yeah. Well, I mean I'm not denying that it's new, but it's also like I'm saying it's got like clear benefits like within society, like for like I said for like keeping society stable is my understanding, and also for child rearing.
Well, I'd agree with you for child rearing, especially if you look historically. If it makes you sterile, then yes, it's better to have like if STDs, which are more common for people who have a higher number of sexual partners, um, if it's assuming that they aren't tested, which we didn't have the capacity to do in the past, Basically, like, it's both is what I'm saying. Like, it's both, and you can see the impact of both on humans, and it doesn't really. I would agree that yes, we're in currently in part because of diseases. Basically, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily have a hard point on this, but I feel like it's just like it's more of a complaint with the way I've heard it talked about in the past, I guess. Because a lot of people are either like hard monogamists or hard polygamists, like as far as like what they think or what humans are like. A lot of people make pronouncements about what humans are actually like designed to do, quote unquote, or like tuned to do. And my point is that it changes based on selection pressures, and you can see evidence of both. Like,
I don't really
like in the capacity that biodiversity is way more advantageous in like a pure life or death way, like as a response to selection pressures. It's better for people to be polygamous because that way there's more people in as many different ways as possible.
I mean, yeah, and like I feel like to like from that, like if we what am I trying to say? If we remove the human relationship lens from this discussion about polygamy, I suppose like most animals are polygamous in that sense because they're trying to make like what am I trying to say? As many possible variants of themselves for like to survive in the future as possible.
Yeah, they're at least like polygynous, I think it is. Like if you're talking about like
strictly like sexual reproduction.
Oh yeah, polygynous, like where like it's usually like a lot of animals when they're like polygamous, it's usually like one dude and a lot of women, not usually the other way around.
Most of the time like in the animal kingdom, polygamy is a dude thing. It's that they're like, well, it's either what am I trying to say? It's either that like the females of the species are like choosy maters, and so they only go after the best dudes, right? Or that like the best dudes, as it were, like quote unquote, like the most powerful dudes chase away all the subordinate males.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense because I mean, sexual selection is still like it's not the only way of reproduction, because there's bacteria or whatever that I think there's not even. Aren't there like some worms and like bugs and stuff that reproduce like asexually by like just like splitting themselves in half or like reproducing or something like or like replicating themselves and stuff?
Like yeah, really small ones, but like
it has a lower complexity because you're dealing with basically you have to wait for random mutation rather than like already have a bunch of I guess still
like bringing two different genetic sources together, as it were.
Yeah. And there's already so much diversity in just the capacity that two individuals have because of sexual selection. Because you have like, I mean, a dude has like how many sperm in his lifetime? Like basically billions and billions of sperm.
It's definitely a large millions number.
Yeah, it's at least like in the hundreds of millions. I'd bet that if you live to like 90, assuming nothing goes wrong with your balls.
Apparently we make like 1,500 a second.
1,500 a second. So, like, could you just look up like lifetime sperm count for guys or something? Lifetime sperm count. 525 billion.
Oof. Yeah,
so hard billions, almost a trillion. Like halfway to a trillion. And I mean, and that might just be standard. I'm not sure because I know that, I mean, not that I know dudes, but like I know that like there have been studies where like in response to like certain stimulus, dudes produce like 2 or 3 times as much sperm than other people. So like I think with weed that's the case because like somebody wanted to test like the weed makes your balls not work myth. And like I think the result at least within their specific study and like their specific selected group is that like the dudes had like 2 or 3 times higher sperm count, which means that like that could be like a trillion and a half sperm. And so that's already so much variant in and of itself And I guess this kind of just makes the point though, because like women have like what, like 50, not 50 eggs, but it's like, so like assuming you're menstruating from like when you're like 9 to when you're like 55, which is really like absurd, but that's like probably the longest you could conceivably have kids, like the longest span of time. Multiply that by like 12 or 24.
Okay, apparently, like essentially, like only like only like 300 to 400 will be ovulated during the lifetime.
Yeah, because wait, how many egg cells do women have?
Well, it says like at birth like 1,000,000, and then by the time they hit puberty, only like 300,000. And then like as far as like those eggs, like
ones,
yeah, and as far as like those eggs having the opportunity to be fertilized,
yeah,
like when they're like ovulating.
But it definitely makes that's the result of like polygamy in humans, probably, that the dudes have more like sperm cells than women have eggs, because like it's much less of a, I mean, the effort on a dude's part is so much less to have kids. And I guess it's interesting because there are like individual sperm cells are already selected for, in that like if you're a weak ass bitch sperm cell, you can't make it to the egg. Like you just can't. Like a whole bunch of them die before they actually get there. It'd be interesting to see what the result would be if you just like, I mean, and I'm sure we'll actually see it in our lifetime, because if you're taking all of these, like, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with the genetic material, but again, but if you're taking all these cells that would have died just in the doing things the old-fashioned way, as it were, I'd be interested to see if it makes like weaker people or something. Like if you have like an embryo that's like artificially, not artificially, but like in a lab taken and fertilized with sperm. Yo, I just feel weird. I'm just talking about eggs and sperm right now, and I can't hear you at all if you're talking.
Oh no, I was gonna say I didn't hear you after I finished saying the thing that I said.
Oh, you should go ahead and say whatever it was, because I'm pretty sure it didn't show up on the recording.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say that I feel like I don't know if like the high like human male sperm count is a human male thing as a result of human evolution. I just feel like on the whole, in like an interspecies kind of way, the male strategy, as in like the half of the species with like with mobile gametes, is like the male strategy on the whole is try and impregnate as many things as you can, right? And then the female strategy, I suppose, would be to try to be impregnated by the best thing that can impregnate you. You know what I mean? So I feel like just us I feel like us having a high sperm count is more of a virtue of how being a dude in any species works.
Yeah. But again, like in that capacity, polygamy is kind of inherent. Like I don't think that you can.
If I would say inherent to humans, I would say that
I would say inherent. I would say like inherent to like males, in that like not that like because I feel like a lot of people would misconstrue like what I'm saying here, and I definitely have heard, because there are definitely people that are like, guys, it's okay when guys cheat or whatever, because guys, they're just inherently, they're meant to fuck. But a little bit we are. That's kind of,
yeah. I mean, the male strategy is to outfuck all the other dudes. Like,
and there's, I mean, I'm not a fan, and I'll say for the record, I'm not a fan of like most aspects of like hookup culture and shit like that, and not for like moral reasons. It doesn't interest me, and a lot of the people that do it are like,
it's not practical in the long term. I feel like it leaves you empty in the end.
Or
with too many kids.
Yeah, especially if you just can't get it up because you're just not into it at all. Holla at your boy. So yeah, I have very soft proof that I'm not into it. I should but
some really flaccid evidence.
But I got some real limp evidence to support this.
Say some limp numbers.
Yeah. I got a real softball about this. I don't know. Yeah, basically, like, I think that if you think that mentally dudes aren't in some, like, there isn't some significant aspect of, like, the male, like there isn't like some very prevalent tendency in males to just fuck and like fuck everything. um
Wait, hold on, John.
you're
You cut out
ignorant.
after you said like 15 seconds ago. Like I
Oh,
didn't
okay,
hear what you
okay,
said.
okay. Oh, if
Yeah.
I think that I was just gonna say, I think that if you don't think that dudes are like hardwired in some capacity to have tendencies to just fuck, even if you agree that like monogamy is more practical or whatever for like population control reasons, etc., personal reasons, etc. Um, if you don't think that there's like some biological drive in dudes to just fuck everything that moves, you're ignorant to like the long crawl of history and the
Oh no,
biology that it's produced.
evolutionarily speaking, right? Like, well, like, yeah, no, like the drive to outcompete all other males, especially especially sexually, is definitely real. Like, it's like, yeah, like I would, yeah, like I'm no, what am I trying to say? I'm no like evolutionary behavioral psychologist or something like that, right?
A lot of
But
those people are kind of a little wishy-washy too, because like there's some that, I mean, I think it's kind of like economists. It's like I think that a lot of them have like a harder understanding of what's going on with biology or economy than most people do, and I think that they have the capacity to think in those terms, but I don't necessarily think, I think they think it's more prescriptive than it actually is, because it's such a multifaceted beast, and there's so many different interpolating factors, or like factors that are linked, and so like if you make a lot of pronouncements about it, they're almost certain to be wrong. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, but like
But
I don't know.
that
I feel like.
said,
Mhm.
dudes fuck.
No, that like yeah, I feel like it can even like I feel like just based on the way that like each what am I trying to say, that like each gender talks about like what am I trying to say about like sexual experiences, like hypothetical sexual experience with the other gender, you know what I mean? Like dudes are always like, see that chick over there? Super hot. You know what I mean? But and that can happen like 20 times every day. You know what I mean? It could happen 5 times like in an hour for sure. You know what I mean? You see someone, you're like, she could get it one time for sure. You know what I mean? But I like, and I'm not. What am I trying to say? I'm not trying to speak on like the female experience, because I'm not one of those. But my understanding is most of the time, like it's just like a gaggle of women who are like, that one dude hot as hell. You know what I mean? Like,
It might even just be a function of because what I've noticed is that when I'm in relationships, I'm like more sexually like in tune with like everything that's going on, generally speaking. Like I I think I'm actually like more prone to check other people out if I'm dating somebody.
interesting.
Not even that I'd act on it, because I wouldn't, because I don't want to hurt
Because it's not
another person's feelings,
practical.
because I'm a really nice, sweet guy.
John's sweet boy.
I have a letter to prove it. I have a review I got. That's true.
If you check John's LinkedIn, it says he's a sweet guy.
Yeah, professional sweet dick. But kind sausage, they say. I'm that kind kielbasa, son.
Yeah.
But I think it might just even be a fact that like if you're fucking at all, you're probably going to be thinking about fucking more generally. Like
Probably.
just in that like you are what you do. Like that's
Yeah.
if it's on your mind, it's on your mind in some respect.
Yeah. Like Bill Burr's bit about helicopters.
I don't know his bit about helicopters, but I've definitely.
He's like once I was shopping for a helicopter, and once I started shopping for helicopters, I started noticing him everywhere. I was looking out of my car like Henry Hill. That's his bit.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fun story though, because you were talking about I know we got to end it soon, or like at least take a break here. Maybe pick it back up later tonight. But my grandma, because my grandma got married to my grandpa because she was like this person from like bumfuck Michigan, and my grandpa was like one of the first computer programmers. Like he worked in a library and he wrote like their entire system of like code on cards, like punch cards, basically.
Yeah.
Like he was working with like the most prototypical version of programming, not licensed by the military, basically.
Yeah.
Like he got in real early, but now he probably couldn't do shit. Although he's still more technologically advanced than his kids, probably. Except for maybe my uncle. I think he can write in like Python or something, because he as well as a librarian. But basically, my grandpa, gay man, or at least bisexual, married to a woman long enough to just be gay now because
bisexual feed.
Yeah, bisexual, but bisexual, trisexual, try anything sexual, as my dad would say and has said. One of his greatest bits of all time, not even intentional. But yeah, you know, like people who are married for a long time and hate each other, and so he's just been married to a woman long enough, and not a particularly intelligent woman either. So like, he's a real smart dude. Been married to a real dumb woman, for a real dumb broad, as it were, long enough to think that all women are dumb broads, because he has had to waste so much of his life not getting stoned to death, just being trapped in an unhappy marriage with this person that he has nothing in common, basically.
Which is an L on him for sure.
But when he was hospitalized for getting fucked in the ass, which is a story I definitely need to work on putting this into, like, because like that alone is like a 15-minute set, is what I'm saying. Like when I say I have a hard hour, I have a hard hour. Like, or I could put a hard hour together if I needed to, because enough weird shit's happened in my life. But when he was hospitalized, after he like got out of intensive care and like the necessary rehab from it, basically to not get divorced, my grandma made him go to this like gay camp in Kentucky, and he wasn't there for that Christmas, and so because he was just putting in the bullshit work that changed nothing, because he still has a dime side piece that's like 45, I think. maybe like mid 50s. I think it's his personal trainer or somehow related to his gym, if I were to guess. Because he just started
side piece.
Yeah, he just really it's like some dude with like a mullet and piercing. I saw him one time. It's hilarious. Definitely on the low. Nobody else knows about that in my family, but they don't need to. It's my business. It's hilarious. Even if the dude's not a side piece, I'm gonna think it is, because it's way better to do that.
Yeah, but, they don't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, but they definitely don't listen to podcasts in general. But I'm trying to think. That's all this is, trying to think. At that Christmas though, my grandma read a piece of poetry, and it was like, to tie it back to what you were saying about how women think differently about sex. My grandma read this poem that was about a prostitute, and it was really fucking awful, because it used like really cliche language about like the purity of snow, and like how and it was like about a prostitute or something. Like the poem was written by a former prostitute, and it was about how like life had turned her out as it was. And so she was like, I forget what the exact language was, and it'd probably be hard to find the poem just because of how many cliches it used. But it was like all about like the crux of the poem that my grandma was reading and crying while she read was all about how she felt dirty because her husband was gay. Basically, she's like, when I first met you, I was pure as snow, and now that snow is bloody and dirty, or something to that effect. And it was hilarious. I think I definitely snickered while she was reading her, or at least internally snickered. Anything you want to wrap with before we take a break, or in case we don't come back? Because I know you got to go soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have any additional thing.
Anything you want to plug, just in case? What song have you listened to recently?
Geez, hold on. Let me open my Spotify really quickly. It should be like up on the top. It's I don't know if it's a new song, but it's called Let me find the album it's on.
I've been I guess just as a little filler, the music that I last night is very reminiscent of it's a little ska, like it's a little bit ska punk. Like one of the two songs I wrote sounds very much like it could be on like a Green Day album. And then the other one sounds like a Swans song. Like it sounds very reminiscent of Jim, because I listen to a lot of music, but I also definitely am aware of my musical influences when I'm writing shit. Yeah, go ahead though. What were you listening to?
I was gonna say I would recommend the Homeboy Sandman album Hallways, specifically the song 1 2 3, because the beat's made from a Philip Glass song. I believe it's Einstein on the Beach. I want to say it's like Act 2 Night Train, something like that, but it's a really good album.
Pay the man. Bar.
Well,
John.
Yeah.
Pirates. Paradise.
Craig,
might be
stop.
back.
Yeah.
Craig, shut the fuck up. Welcome back.
Okay, listeners of the Pirates of Paradise podcast, you missed the most fantastic bit, and I guess you could repeat it again, so it's not really lost, so maybe I got too upset, but still, it was a fantastic bit.
I wrote down, these are the notes that I had, that I wrote down earlier, so I have, quote, doing time, earning dimes, feeling fine, time served. And I don't know what any of it means, and I was stone sober when I wrote it. Let's see.
That's a work of art. We should put that on a fucking t-shirt, John.
Let's see. It looks like something that says like Shaggy on trial. I don't know what that means or what that is, or I don't think
John, what podcast did we record, dude? Like, what did we say? What if that's like a perfect description of it? Like, what did we say?
I have no idea. I also maybe sluts on trout. I don't know what this says.
Sluts on trout.
I wrote it in Sharpie, and I think the Sharpie bled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the two things I know for sure are Reggie Watts and Ron Funches, which are also some of my favorite comedians. Reggie Watts isn't really a comedian per se. Like he's more of like an improv guy, like an Eric Andre or something, where he does like sketch comedy and stuff like that. So he's pretty great in that capacity. But also he always he does musical comedy, and so he basically his whole shit is he'll get on stage with a whole bunch of synthesizers and like some weird instruments that you've never like seen or heard of or heard, and he'll just make like a really nice like strange song. Usually he'll just do like some jazzy like skibbity or whatever over top, like I forget what the actual term is for it, but like just scatting. He'll just like scat basically, but make it sound somewhat like words. Yeah. But then he also in his special he I don't think it's clowning on Joe Rogan specifically, but he has like a whole bit about like where he's like mocking or like doing like an impression of people who like talk about like consciousness and stuff. And he's been on Joe Rogan too, so like I know that he's aware of it and is probably in some capacity influenced by that for the bit, and it's really funny to me. Making a joke in a comedy special about another comedian is fantastic.
Oh no, it's very deep. It's a deep cut.
Mm-hmm. But also Ron Funches is amazing. Like that dude's just great. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his stuff, but he
Ron
just has
Funches?
Ron Funches.
I don't think I know.
RONFU, like Ron Fun CHES, like Che Guevara.
Mm. Interesting.
But he has the best giggle I've ever heard. Like he just laughs like but like in a better way than that. I don't know.
Mm.
And he does it all the time, which is it's good. I don't know. Laughing at your own jokes, it sounds pretentious, like on paper, but it definitely works if you find your own. Like if you're just such a happy person that like you're amused by like your own material or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
I
having a
found that.
joke that's like so funny that you can't tell it without laughing.
Yeah, no, I found that a lot of the times that like a lot of the times that people around here think I'm funny is because I'll say something that I think is funny and I will laugh at it like too hard and they'll think
Oh,
that's really funny.
I was thinking about that earlier. Because I've definitely like I laugh all the time, and I'm like pretty chill about like not chill because when I do my job, I'm super I'm
There's a job to
super
be done.
yeah.
Like,
There's a job to be done, but like if somebody's trying to scoot by me, I'll like press myself up in against the wall in like some kind of like really absurd position.
yeah. Like
That's
I'll
like
yeah, like I'll get the fuck out of your way.
ah,
Like you're or like do you mean like a situation in which you're like singularly focused on Panera's what am I trying to say? Like efficiency.
God damn it! Why did fucking the audio only drop back in when you said Panera?
My bad.
Also, I'm still trying to stick with the the fuck Panera shit. Like, I don't want to say their name at all.
Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad.
It's all Gucci, I know. Like, it's whatever. But I don't want to give them any press if this ever blows up. Uh, yeah, but you know, but yeah, like I'll press myself up against the wall and stuff. And if somebody says the worst thing in the world is when people say sorry. Like, I hate that for minor shit. Like it's so annoying. Like I remember there was some like pro woman ad in the past that was like women don't apologize, men don't apologize when they're at work. They're bossy or whatever in their situations. So you need to be a bossy bitch or something like that. But honestly, don't apologize because it's just annoying. Like I don't want to hear you like save the apology for when it matters. I don't apologize like my mom, I've made my mom cry because I couldn't give her a heartfelt apology before, like when something happened, because she was always like, I demand something, like I demand an apology, and I'm like, well, the fact that you demand one and you don't just like respect me enough to expect one when I've thought about the situation, that makes me not value it. Also, clearly doesn't make you value like it means you don't value thinking really in any capacity.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, like if you ask me for an apology, I can't give you a real one by the like as a virtue of you asking for it. You know what I mean?
I'll give you an apology like in 3 months when I feel like I was a real piece of shit in the past.
Exactly. Like once I am sorry, I will apologize.
Yeah, but sometimes people don't want to hear it either. Like especially like if you feel like you've hurt somebody or something. Like I've never done anything straight up terrible to anyone, but like I don't know, you need like a lot of time to like.
Oh yeah, because most of the time when you do something extraordinary, you feel like at least like you're kind of like pseudo justified in it. You know what I mean? So like it takes real time to figure out. Oh no, I fucked up before. I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Or like that kind of thing.
I was just also going to say it takes time for them to appreciate an apology, too. Like, the fact that, like, because an apology is like, I did something so bad that it's been, like, in the back of my, or like, I'm so unhappy with the way I handled a situation that it's been in the back of my mind if I could have done it better for long enough that it's impressive I remember to apologize.
Something like.
And it's like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's significant in a way, and you can't just like demand it.
Yeah, like I don't have a great memory, but I have like a strangely great memory for like, I guess, things that people have said to me or whatever. Like I can tell you, not the first time I like met somebody necessarily, although I think I probably could, but like the first time I had like a significant interaction with a person, usually.
Yeah, like your origin story with that specific person.
Yeah, at least in like my personal life.
Yeah, yeah.
Fucksville on this one.
So did we finish reading all of the notes? Like, are those like from the previous podcast? It seems that we slipped into an alternate dimension of some kind, and we were there for like 1,000 years. We went mad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And those
You ever
are the
do
only
that?
notes that survived.
You ever do that? I've done that.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah. Mushrooms. You know what happens to the best of us. Lots and lots of mushrooms, like 34 grams of mushrooms. But not like good mushrooms, like 34 grams of bad, shitty mushrooms. But high speed, I know what this one says. It says high speed trains, but I wrote it and it came out like high speed Timmies or Timmins. Yeah.
Wait, John, give me 1 second. Someone's calling me, and so it turned my my speaker off. I gotta go.
You want to just mute yourself?
Oh, I don't.
Because I'll probably just keep talking a little bit. But yeah. So high speed Timmy's kind of looks like Timbits, you know, like Tim Hortons Munchkin knockoff. I don't know first, probably not theirs. It was probably Munchkins. Munchkins, definitely a better name than Donut Holes. Like first of all, it doesn't even make sense, and second of all, don't use the word hole in the name of a food item unless you're doing it on purpose. Like for sure, when you give me meatballs, don't call them meat holes. Like for sure, if you're giving me like a couple like balls of ice cream on a cone, don't call it like an ice cream hole, because the ice cream hole is what it goes into, and that's not ideal. Whore is typing.
Like you should. What am I trying to say? I hate when I go to an establishment and their product is some kind of terribly embarrassing phrase. You know what I mean? Like
oh, I don't hate it.
Like it makes me feel like a bitch when I say it. Like when I say like cookie, don't you want some at Cold Stone Creamery? Not to shout it up unless they sponsor us. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Terrible.
Oh yeah. What should we call them? Chili Rock.
Like cold ice cream place. Something.
Frigid flat.
Sub-zero surface milk.
Chop them up. Ice cream yum yum. But yum yum fun fun. That's my favorite ice cream they have. It's Fun Dip and animal crackers, I think. But a product I really fuck with is the BBC at Solly Boys, because I think that's hilarious. Because like in the capacity that all they do is like stoner food, I think it's hilarious that they call themselves, that they have a burger called the Big Black Cock.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Because they definitely are aware of it, because it's not like everyone who works there is super old.
No, not at all. And like, you know, the people own like a bunch of other restaurants. It's like, it's not like they're new to this or whatever. But high-speed trains. Basically, like, high-speed trains are really a good idea for, like, an investment in infrastructure, because I think there's for, like, trips. I texted this to you because I saw it in, like, a video I was watching about it from, like, a reputable news source. I think it was, like, CNN or MSNBC or one of those. I don't think either of those. I think it was CNBC. Might have been CBC, like, Canadian broadcasting. Because I don't think they have a great rail system either in Canada. But The basically for trips shorter than I think it's 4 hours, 90% of people in Europe use the train rather than like they steal like 90% of the customers from airplanes on the high speed trains because they're way cheaper, way more cost effective. Don't have like a bunch of fuel that they have to use, and they're like just as fast, if not faster, because you don't have to worry about like layover and all these like all of the waiting in the airports. And there might be some kind of train security, but it's not really like the TSA.